January, usually a quiet and cold month, but this year came with something unusual that made the residents of the small town of Midwood hold their breath. It was as if a sudden invasion of frost had frozen not only the air, but the hearts of the people. At first it was only a rumor. It was said that something strange had happened in a house on the outskirts of the city. The house that had stood deserted for years suddenly began to radiate something sinister. The windows were obscured by fog, as if hiding something terrible, and faint glowing reflections came out from under the door slits. The first to venture there were those who had long dreamed of solving the mysteries of the disappearances that occurred from time to time in Midwood. But as they approached the house, they sensed that something was wrong. The cold that was felt around the place penetrated through their clothes like a winter frost. On a January night, one of the explorers decided to gather all their courage and head inside. Every step seemed like resistance, as if nature itself resisted his approach to the house. As soon as he crossed the threshold, the coldness pierced him to the bone. It was dark inside, but he noticed a faint glow in the distance. It seemed to be something unnatural, a light that had no source. Step by step, he moved closer to where that glow was coming from, but the closer he got, the more he felt his body seemed to freeze with fear. The light revealed the room, but what he saw made him flinch. There was a figure standing in the corner. It was wrapped in some strange glowing aura, and its eyes seemed to sparkle in the darkness. It was something unknown, a being that shouldn't have existed in reality. Seconds seemed like an eternity until the creature began to approach the explorer. Its screams fell silent in the darkness, and no one else dared to approach that house. From then on, a sense of unease enveloped the town. The inhabitants began to avoid that suburb as if it were plague-ridden. January brought something sinister to the town that made its inhabitants think of mysteries and terrors lurking in the darkness and frost. Every night in January became more and more tense. The residents of Midwood began to notice strange sounds coming from that house on the outskirts. First it was quiet moans, then crunching and grinding, as if something was crawling through the walls of that house, making sounds that chilled the blood in the veins of anyone who heard them. Lonely people would sometimes disappear from the usual local cafes, stores, or homes, and no one knew what was happening to them. Rumors of the creature from home had become part of everyday conversations, and now few people dared to go outside after sunset. A wall of silence enveloped the town. No one wanted to bring up the topic of discussion for fear that the monstrous creature would hear them and head towards their home. However, life continued in its normal rhythm, albeit with a tinge of fear and anxiety. People avoided the streets after sundown, closing windows and doors tightly, as if that could protect them from a mysterious threat they couldn't approach. Each night the glowing creature in that house seemed to grow stronger, and its influence spread farther and farther across the city. People rallied in their fear and indecision, unsure of how to deal with this threat that seemed to permeate every corner of their lives. And January became the month when the dark secrets and terrors that lurked in the depths of the city came out, taking shape and strength in the winter gloom. Under tension and fear, the citizens of Midwood tried to find a way out of this terrifying situation, but each new step only caused more anxiety and worry. In the night, when the darkness of the city was so thick that it seemed to consume everything around it, something strange happened. The inhabitants heard loud screams and moans that penetrated through the darkness. Groups of brave people ventured to the mysterious house, but never returned. Their disappearances caused new waves of terror and hopelessness. One of the townspeople, eager to find answers, decided to explore the house on his own. Under the cover of night, armed with a flashlight and a weapon of fear, he approached the door, Step by step, he overcame his inner fears as he approached something unknown, thirsty for blood. The moment he crossed the threshold, all his courage left him. He found himself in a room full of shadow and darkness. Sounds disappeared as if they had never existed. The only thing he saw were shadows dancing around him, sending goosebumps on his skin. As if his own mind challenged him, he heard whispers that sounded like voices from the past. Voices of lost souls consumed by this house. Fear made him flee, but the shadows pursued him, leaving only reflections of past suffering. The night ended, but the secrets of this house remained unsolved. The residents of Midwood began to avoid it, as if it were a terrifying monster that could devour them at any moment. Each succeeding evening only deepened Midwood's sense of dread. The town fell victim to its own fears and secrets that lurked in this ominous house on the outskirts. Local legends began to emerge, each one darker and more inexplicable than the last. Some spoke of ghosts roaming the corridors. Others claimed it was a house that had broken free of the chains of time and devoured those who dared enter. Not everyone agreed with these legends, however. There were those who still dared to explore the mysterious house. One January night, a group of explorers appeared in the city, determined to unravel the mysteries of the place. They armed themselves with cameras, flashlights, and recording devices, ready to record any unusual activity. They passed through the gate and entered the house, recording every step and every sound that could explain the nature of the place. Their resolve was strong, but despite all the preparations, they did not expect to encounter what they found inside. The further they moved down the corridors, the stranger their visions became. Photographs showed strange reflections. Audio recordings were filled with mysterious rustles and whispers. Their flashlights flickered and distorted as if they were on the verge of extinction. Their nerves were on edge. But the strangest thing began when they entered a room shrouded in dense darkness. They heard rustling, as if someone was coming towards them from the depths of the room. They turned around but saw nothing but black nothingness. When they tried to get out, the doors they had used to enter had disappeared. They were trapped in this room, in something that was beyond their comprehension. They were no part of the mystery of this house. With each passing minute, they felt their fear growing, as if their souls were becoming enveloped by the darkness surrounding them. One by one, the explorers began to hear voices calling them out of the darkness, voices that seemed to come from the depths of the past, from eras long gone. They were whispers of anguish and sorrow that sounded like endless echoes in the emptiness of the room. The flashlights flickered, their light sluggish and erratic, as if they were reflections of mysterious shadows eager to engulf them. Fear was increasing. They began to lose touch with reality, as if they were trapped in a labyrinth of hopeless darkness. All their attempts to get out failed, and the room seemed to change, as if it were changing its own structure and shape. The voices grew louder, and each sound seemed piercing, filling their brains with some unknown knowledge. In this darkness, where only loneliness and loss were felt, the explorers realized that they had become part of the mystery of this house. They had become what they feared, shadows within the walls of this place. The explorers found themselves entangled in time and space, as if thrown into the abyss of the past. Hours, minutes, and seconds lost their meaning, consumed by the irresistible power of this mysterious house. Their minds slipped through time fractures, where past and present were intertwined in unrelated images. They saw pictures that could not be real, images from the past and the future, distorted and echoing. The voices in their ears became clearer, but they were not words, but rather emotions and memories intertwined with their own thoughts. The explorers felt pain, suffering, and joy belonging to the people who once lived here. Amidst this turmoil of memories, one of them noticed a light, light and dim, like a candle in a dark room. It stood out amongst the darkness, as if it were an indication of a way out of this mystical web. They moved towards this light, the tangles of time behind them, but this light represented their only chance to return to reality. With each step, the light grew brighter, and the explorers felt the heaviness of this place begin to loosen. They found themselves in a spacious hall, where the walls disappeared and the dark sky opened up above their heads. The light looked like a breakthrough from this frightening world. They stepped into that light, and instantly everything around them changed. The explorers were suddenly outside, in the bright January sun, as if none of what was happening was real. They experienced something indescribable, but the return to reality turned out to be the most amazing miracle. They talked about their experience, but the house on the outskirts of Midwood remained an area of mystery and fear that no one else dared enter.